Hello there, and welcome to MacYak episode number 188, the special Worldwide Developer Conference 2023 edition. We are joined by our very special guest here today, Kate, the Macintosh Librarian. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on again.
It's very good to have guests on for a show like this because we just always end up saying the same things. We definitely need some fresh blood here too, because we're all becoming a little bit negative these days in our old age.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, I wake up because unfortunately I can't watch them live. Well, I could, but I'm not going to because it's like 3 a.m. my time, and I basically wake up in the morning with like about sort of 200 messages in our group chat, and not a lot of them positive. I will say that. So anyhow, obviously the purpose. Well, first of all, everyone, how are you all?
Good. Hello.
Good.
Yeah,
it's good. That's good. Does anyone have anything interesting to report before we start getting into the meat of this thing? 3, 2. That's very, very important.
I'm thinking. I watched the whole keynote.
Yeah. I watched.
It's been a while since I finished the whole thing.
The keynote kept freezing for me.
Because you're on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rudy, you're on Wi-Fi. Come on now.
Even in plugged-in stuff, it would freeze up on me.
You are on Wi-Fi.
Yes, I mean
it's plugged in.
It's not so much Wi-Fi. You're on DSL. It's like 1980s internet, right?
I mean, mine kept pausing, but that was because I kept pausing it. I was getting so bored out of my mind. So.
It got really boring towards the end for sure.
Well, the thing is, the keynote is only fun to watch if you're on our Discord. While it's happening.
Oh,
the chat is what makes it pop.
Especially Miss Macintosh Librarian there. Some of her choice words.
No, not my comment. I was really excited. I love the Apple events, and this one was
that was pretty exciting.
Really looking forward to it for a while.
Well, that excitement is what got you here. It's like we're all so grumpy about it. We need someone that has excitement,
There's always a lot of cynicism surrounding any.
You know what though? This keynote is the first one in a long time where I really didn't have a whole lot to be grumpy about.
Yeah,
I really like this one.
Even the Apple Watch stuff.
Decent.
Well, I didn't watch the Apple Watch stuff.
There you go.
Because it
The only
doesn't
thing that
apply to
bothered
me, so I
me
just didn't watch it.
There was just one Mac that bothered me, but other than that, it was fairly decent.
I definitely struggle with the software related stuff, when they're adding new features, because so many of them just seem like someone is sitting there just trying to think stuff up to add without any real need for it.
Stickers.
But anyhow, we'll get to that. So now let's just head straight into this. And although this isn't necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with this. We are going to do the one more thing first. So if anyone here is
that little subtitle thing he says different.
Yeah. Why?
We said we were going to do that because Steve wanted us to do this first.
Yes, I know, but why does Steve get a say? So anyhow, we are going to talk about the Apple Vision Pro. This is of course the one big. There is one more thing that that's the whole. Doing the whole keynote and then getting it to the end, and there is one more thing that Steve Jobs used to do, and of course they were always the really big things. I mean, he did that with the iPhone, I think, didn't he? And that was of course quite something else. Now we're going to talk about the Apple Vision Pro, but before we launch into this, I'm just going to ask a question to the group. Does anyone have anything positive to say about it?
Yes.
Good.
I have a lot of positive stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, that is good. That is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead with the positives first, I guess, and then we'll talk about the negatives.
Well, even before we get into that, can I just ask? It's been a few years since Steve Jobs left us and Tim Cook took over. He's had some practice now, but he still looks like he's gonna pee himself on stage, especially when he said, "There is one more thing." It's like, okay, this is it. He's gonna let it flow. Do you think he'll ever get it down? Like that he says there's one more thing and you feel like, wow, yes, give it to me. But
he's not wearing a turtleneck, so it's like not the same.
Jobs was a showman. He knew how to work a crowd. Tim is a bean counter, and there's not anything wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just what he's good at. He really hasn't gotten any better or any worse. He's just kind of the same. He's like a flat line as far as his charisma on these things. But yeah, it was kind of funny watching him go. There's one more thing.
Fine.
It's almost like display.
There's one more.
Craig Federighi, though, he had that guitar.
Oh, that dude rocked it.
That Apple striped guitar and running around stage. He's the showman of all that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I every time I see Craig Ferengi, I am just always reminded of how much I wish I had hair like that. It's just,
I'll settle for any hair at all, but his is pretty good. Yeah.
I did notice that he's gone from like the salt and pepper gray to now fully Gandalf the white. So
the weird thing I find about him, and I don't know why, someone might agree or disagree with me, but whenever I look at him, he looks like he's two people joined at the center. His legs never seem to look like they are part of his top body. I don't know why, but just when I look at him there, he looks like he's joined at the middle and the two parts aren't from the same body.
That's just the Legs Pro prototype.
Legs Pro.
yeah.
Did anyone catch when he was talking about the iPad? And I'm not going off topic here, but when he magnetoed the iPad and it flew into his hand.
Yeah.
Everybody catch
Yes.
that?
Full strap.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, headphones, whatever the thing's called.
Yeah. Okay. So, So shall we? I'm just not sure necessarily what is the best way for us to tackle this because I'm sure there's so much to say. So I will just start off and just say, okay, whoever wants to sort of put your hand up, you want to say, what were your first impressions of it when you saw it?
Well, that's not fair. You can't see my hand. But I got nothing. Go ahead.
I guess I'll turn your camera on.
Okay, well, Greg, Grudy, your hand came up first, so I'll let you have your say of first impressions.
Well, when it started, I had missed there's just one more thing because one of my dogs had disappeared. So I had to go get that dog. And
So there was one
I
less
finally
thing.
got the video on again. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? It's like an Oculus, but creepy. Because the eyes are just so creepy. And they're not even really your eyes. They're simulated eyes.
Well, no,
Yeah.
they are. Aren't they a projection of your eyes, or are they
Yes.
actually a full 3D
No,
simulation?
It's
They
a
are
projection.
3D simulated.
I know it's a 3D simulation.
It's a scan of your eyes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, originally when you set it up, it scans your eyes and stuff. But there are also cameras inside that watch, like when you blink or when you look at somebody, and then it makes the picture look at somebody and blink. So
Yeah, but it's a simulation from what I understand because your eyes is just surrounding your eyes. It's not
right, because it's a
whole.
screen facing out.
Yeah.
So it's a display of
And the other thing, I understand the want to be able to capture your family's memories and stuff, but you're going to give your kids nightmares if you record your children while you're wearing that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's
When
make sure
I
that
saw that, it made my skin crawl. It gave me flashbacks to when my dad would scare the crap out of me as a kid.
and let's make sure that the kids' party doesn't go for more than 2 hours.
With
yeah,
that
'cause
awful
we're out of
battery
batteries.
life.
Blow out the candles. No, wait. I got to find the battery.
All right, I got to find a place to plug in.
So, GT, yes, your first impressions.
First impressions were, I thought when I first saw it, anybody ever see that movie Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've
It
seen
kind
the
of looked
poster.
exactly like those goggles
does.
they had in that
Yeah.
movie, where you could see through it and stuff. And that's what I thought it was at first, was see through, until I started looking at the thing and said, "Wait, that's not see through. That's kind of creepy, like everybody else is saying."
Yeah.
Some of the bad things and one of the very bad things that I found about it is people that wear glasses are kind of screwed in this way because you're going to have to pay to get the inserts.
Yeah. One of the dudes that was actually talking about it during the keynote, he had glasses, and I felt like saying, "Why didn't you speak up? Come on!"
Yeah.
You know,
You
I
just
mean,
get the Carl Zeiss lenses made for
Yeah.
an unknown amount of money, and then
It's
you'll be
probably
Yeah, right.
like the wheels, like the wheels for the Mac Pro. It's going to cost you about $700-800 just to.
so
get
what do
that.
you send Apple your prescription or something, and then they
Yeah,
get
that's
it made up?
why I'd assume. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like Warby
Yeah.
Parker or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if we all order one, all of us here, if we order one of those things, that's an additional $7,000 for Apple. Just right
Well,
off the bat.
Well,
here's the thing, though.
I should just mention that this item in Australia will be selling for $5,200. So you guys,
That's a lot of kangaroo dollars.
yeah, you're $3,500.
Well, here's the thing, though, about the glasses, too, is that I have an Oculus, okay? And I actually tried to get the inserts for my Oculus, but when I sent my prescription in, they said, oh, wait, we can't do it because your prescription. Well, my prescription's a progressive bifocal lens, not regular. So I'm afraid that that's going to be the same exact thing. I'm going to spend $3,500 on this thing, and then they're going to sit there and say, oh, we can't do your prescription.
You're not going to do a multifocal prescription for
Exactly.
this because you're looking at the same distance the whole time.
Exactly.
So all you're going to need, the only thing you're going to need is a prescription for being able to see that far away from your face.
I agree
Which
with you.
in my case, I won't need.
I agree.
Yeah, I
Well, I think-
probably won't need it.
I think with the lenses, it actually your muscles are actually looking at a distance. Technically, like the
So,
lens is kind
which
of your eye.
Yeah, which means so they've actually put a lens in there to change the
Yes,
focal
there's
depth of it. It'll
other.
be interesting to know what they consider to set that ideal focal depth at. As in, does it feel like you're looking at something a foot away?
Well, why couldn't they have actually made it where it could focus for you? Because I have a microscope that I look through. Okay, it's a binocular microscope, and I don't wear my glasses with it, and I could see perfectly fine because I focus it to my eyes. Why couldn't they do something similar to that with this, where you don't?
Because
have
an
to put-
adjustment dial would be an additional $3,000.
It's probably
And
you're
it would
probably
make
right.
them stick out like that.
I wouldn't
have
think it'd
those
stick out
lenses
that
to-
far.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll
you
be
wouldn't
interesting
need
to
it.
see.
Yeah.
When someone
and
buys one for me, I'll tell you how it goes.
then- well, when they come to my store for the demo, I'm going to be sure to at least try them on to see how they work. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kate, first impressions?
Yes. I was really excited for this. So I came in with high expectations, and I think my expectations were met. My first impressions were that I think the concept of having your laptop screen expanded out, and now you can have 3 virtual screens. You can work. You can essentially take your MacBook and work anywhere with 3 monitors, or watching a movie and have something else going on. To me, that seems really awesome. Like they have integration with Mac OS to where you can use your screen on your Mac, and that to me is the killer feature. The concept of the taking photos of your family, that was a little creepy, but I think that's leading into probably maybe a new device. I'm popping. So if I'm popping, let me
Yeah,
adjust
it is
A
popping.
little bit. A little bit.
You are,
It's
but
not-
I don't dare interrupt.
And it's not unbearable, not like when
No.
Jay's audio
Okay,
goes.
okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I'll resume. But I was talking about the camera, the hollow. It's not taking 3D videos or photos of your family and stuff is creepy with the big headset, but
Yeah.
I think they're probably going to introduce some sort of 3D recording features onto the future devices, and then it will be a common thing, right? It's kind of like
That'd be a little confusing, I think.
iPods.
iPods.
They are kind of on a kick where they bring back some old names like Eyesight, except now it's EYE. And then the Apple Vision, which is now 2 words. It was 1 word before. So,
But I was
well, I think they're naming
little thrown
everything
back by the
Apple
price.
now. If you kind of look at the stuff they're coming out with now, everything's Apple, like the Apple Watch. You know,
yeah.
I think they're wanting to put the name Apple in everything.
Just because I have no interest in AR, VR, putting one of those things on my face, doesn't mean I don't appreciate the technology. What they got here
it's great
is
technology.
freaking amazing.
Yeah.
What they crammed into that thing, it's wow. And if it delivers on even half of what they demoed, like awesome. And there's not a lot of people that I've spoken to about this that agree with me when I say that other companies that are into this space are crapping themselves. I fully believe that. It's like, oh no, other people do this better, other people do that better. So I don't care. When a player this big enters your space, you're going to be nervous. I don't care who you are. And so far, all the reviews I was seeing today of people that tried it, they've all been good. I heard one complaint, or maybe 2, that it was a bit heavy, a bit on the heavy side. But everything else is like the display quality, how it recognizes your fingers for clicking and stuff. It's just superb. And they still have a year to work on this, or half a year. So it's going to be awesome.
You know, even when you think of something about like the iPhone, I mean, it was a revolutionary device, but they really didn't sort things out properly until the 3G came out. You know, that first one had a lot of flaws in it. So I think we could look at this, you know, in a positive light and say that that's certainly something we could be expecting this to improve. I mean, they call it a wearable technology, the same as the watch. Now, the one thing I would say about that is that, okay, I'm wearing an Apple Watch, and yes, it is bigger than a regular watch. But when you compare how much bigger this is to a regular watch compared to how big an Apple Vision is compared to a pair of regular spectacles or sunglasses, it's a big change. And let's face it, it's not like you can just plonk them on and go walking down the street and not feel like a complete tool. So I see this as something that, you know, whereas the what was the Google one, the
Glass.
Glass, you know, where I think people, you know, the idea is that people will be wandering around wearing them all the time. You know, this is not going to be the case with these. People are going to be wearing them in the privacy of their offices or homes. And so in that regard, it's not the same as, you know, the Apple Watch, in that it's something that you just, you know, replaces your normal watch. So I wonder what the law is about driving with one of these on. That's a good question.
Oh God, I hope it's outlawed.
Oh Lord, are they actually going to have to make laws for this now?
Well, look, this is an interesting thing. You know, in this country, it's illegal to be holding a phone in your hand while you're driving. Okay, and rightly so. The number of people that have died from distracting themselves with a phone is terrible. But there is no law in place at the moment for watches at this stage. So I can be sitting there driving along and checking my messages on my watch, and it's not technically illegal. And the laws have to catch up with that sort of stuff. Because let's face it, you put that on, you could make an argument saying, "Oh, I can see everything." But I think it would be pretty
until the battery dies.
Yeah, I think it'll take one person wrapping their car around a tree when their VR headset.
So you reach up and you scratch an itch and you turn that little dial, and suddenly the background like goes around.
The interesting thing about it, there is one important thing about it is that if you are using this as a computer screen, it gives you complete privacy. You can't have anyone standing over your shoulder looking at what you're working at while you're working. So that means for a lot of people, it means they can actually start watching pornography at work. I definitely,
only the really clever ones will be able to hide it, though.
Like, is that privilege really worth $3,500 though?
Well, people would say
the one of the things that, you know, when it started, I had all these questions, and thankfully those questions did get answered because I sat and watched the whole freaking thing. But one of the things that I you know, sort of, there is still do have a couple of questions. I'll see what you guys think about this as well. When they showed the person having a FaceTime meeting and they were seeing all those lovely faces hovering in front of them, and I thought, isn't that nice? I'm thinking, what on earth do they see of this person? And then they showed what they see, and they see like this kind of lawnmower man
AI.
computer graphics
It was,
head
yeah,
that looks
Yeah.
as creepy as anything. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Uncanny
If-
valley.
if we
very
are
much so.
all going to be appearing in, FaceTime, if everyone's wearing these things and everyone's looking like that, that is just going to be as creepy as anything. So
The best part is when even on the phone currently, when you can turn yourself into a turd or a giraffe and all that, if you yawn or you look at a funny angle and it just starts completely freaking out the mouse and all that, I want to see that happen when someone's wearing this thing and in a company-wide Zoom meeting and they have to
Oh.
yawn and you just see their
The-
jaw come over the screen or something.
There will be galleries of glitches.
or the emoji will just start sort of sticking its tongue out or something like that inadvertently.
Yeah, that was
I'm
a
actually
concern of mine.
surprised that they didn't. Do you think they
I'm
can do
always
it?
on-
Like, if it scans your whole face, surely it could turn you into a shark or a giraffe, like the iPhone can.
It
I'm
should,
surprised
yeah.
they didn't demo that.
I
think
mean,
it-
sorry, go
it
ahead.
can. I would assume that was kind of a, that's
Yeah, I mean-
old tech. They want to show the new
Yeah.
stuff. So they want to
Right.
show not emojis, but they want to show that this.
Are you
virtual
calling me
avatar.
old-fashioned? I love being a giraffe.
Yeah.
All right. You openly admit you're old-fashioned.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're not going to show that off. I think, sure, you can turn into a shark or a chicken or whatever, but you need to go into the AI, be a virtual person.
Hey, Sean's here.
Now, before we move on, if we were close to moving on, what are our most outrageous predictions when it comes to what's this thing called? The Vision Pro. Like,
Apple
what
Vision
is the
Pro.
most insane thing we're gonna find out next year you can do with this? Like, will Adobe create a Photoshop that's fully AR, or will I don't know the most outrageous thing you can think of? What do we think it's gonna be?
Has anyone here seen Johnny Mnemonic with
Yes.
Keanu Reeves?
Yes.
Yes.
There was a sort of a scene in that where he puts on an AR headset and he has these digital gloves and he starts doing all of his computing with his hands in space. He's spinning things around and stuff like that. I mean, is it possible that we will end up in a situation where you are just doing all your computing in space? You're just like typing letters in the air and stuff like that.
It's a good possibility. I
Could
mean,
be, yeah.
I think typing.
Mm.
I think we're getting into voice
Mhm.
control. I think
Mm.
that's kind of the big input, and also you can connect Bluetooth keyboards and things like that.
Yeah.
I
So
think
you just
I don't think typing on a virtual surface, unless Apple, we're talking about future stuff, I think they would probably want something that induces haptic feedback into your hands. I don't know how, but I think to give
Gloves.
that sense of touch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gloves.
gloves or some sort of.
Apple Gloves
A
Pro.
s- a small static electric shock every time you make contact.
Yep.
I think, and it may take longer than what Jay suggested, but I want to see how it works with games, specifically games. Kind of like say World of Warcraft or fighting games, or any type of game. And see how the interface can mesh with all the different like a first person shooter versus an RPG versus a side scroller.
Oh my god, Unreal Tournament on that thing would be amazing. Or
Now,
something like Myst or Riven or Stray. Wow. Yeah, that would be mind blowing.
What I will say about it is I was absolutely blown away. Though I haven't seen it, I was blown away by the description of the technology of the little screens that you're looking at, essentially 4K resolution per eye. And with the pixels so tiny, weeny small that, you're looking at an image that doesn't look like it's pixelated. You're looking, it's not like just grabbing your phone screen and sticking it close to your face. You can see a very, very clear, smooth image. And so I feel like things like watching movies on something like that will be great. I mean, I think the idea of, I mean, it's that whole thing about like, someone says, I want to get a bigger TV. And I say to them, just move your chair closer to the TV you've got. Well, this is like moving the screen really, really close. So you can get that full cinematic experience because you can have that full sort of wraparound type situation going.
Well,
so I think
it's true.
Well, plus they also talked about like the 3D movies. Really immersive.
I can imagine a 3D movie because the 3D technology that we use today when we go to the cinema, it's a technology they use with a polarized filter. And essentially what ends up happening is one frame is your left eye and one frame is your right eye, and then left and right. And they play them with the different the polarized lens facing going one way or the other, and then your lens allowing one frame to go in that eye, one frame to go in that eye, and then it puts the pieces together. But two big problems with this: one, the image ends up darker, and two, it also ends up at a lesser frame rate because you've essentially got one eye rather than the whole thing coming at you at like 24 frames a second. So I actually find the 3D experience in a cinema usually fairly disappointing because it's essentially like I just feel like I'm watching the movie at a slower frame rate and someone's holding a tinted lens in front of me to make everything darker. Having something like this where you actually just have two screens, one giving you a left eye image and one giving you a right eye image, it's going to give a 3D experience, totally unlike anything that you're going to be able to see at the cinema. So I think that will be fantastic for the 3D movie aficionados out there. I can definitely see the appeal there.
Oh yeah, I think that's really going to take off for the 3D movies and stuff coming back again because you're going to see a lot more of that, especially for the Apple stuff. Especially I think because they got Disney partner with them. Disney's going to come out with some 3D stuff.
Oh yeah, because they're so innovative.
Well,
Disney.
Well, especially their Pixar division. It's probably going to have some really good stuff coming out of that.
You mean that one that just keeps remaking movies they've already done?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Maybe they'll make them in
re-render
full
it
3D
now with two cameras, right? They just render it out.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure
certainly for 3D movies. Yeah.
I don't think it'd be hard for them to render that in a computer. They just say, okay, we want to do it this way. Boom, let's just hit the enter key and let it render.
So I do have a valid question here, and I'm interested to see what you guys think in terms of your opinions on this matter. Now, when I'm watching a film, I like to get up every now and again and top up my glass with a little bit of extra wine from time to time. Do like a bit of wine while I'm watching the film.
Or time after time.
So I have to get up and go to the refrigerator and get my wine and go and top up and, press the pause button for that. Now, if you've got the headset on, right, okay, are you going to want to be taking that off each time to go and get your wine? Or are you going to want to take the headset with you, in which case you've got the battery pack, which basically rules out watching a James Cameron film because, you're only going to get to 2/3 of the way through the film. Yes, please go, Dana.
You buy a mini fridge and you keep it by your couch.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Not sure about that. So I guess here's the question that I had. This is a genuine question. If you have the battery pack connected and then you find yourself running out of batteries and then you need to connect it to the mains power, do you have to shut it down to swap? Or can you just go flip like that, jump one to the other and have uninterrupted use when you transfer from powered, battery power to mains power?
I have a theory on that.
A question that's going to have to be answered by Apple because I think that battery pack is its only power source right now because they specifically said they did not want to put a battery in it to make it heavier because like the Oculus has a battery in the headset itself. But
didn't they say you can plug it in too?
Yeah. It runs off. It'll run off mains power. So if you're in an office, okay, I get that totally. If you're in an office and you're sitting there working away, and you're going to be bringing your computer screen up on your thingy, and you'll be plugged into the mains power for that because
it'll probably plug into the battery pack and then go through that way, right?
No,
I don't think the battery pack can disconnect from the headset.
Yeah.
I thought
So
the thing itself had a 2-hour battery life, and if you need more, you hook up the external battery. Did I get that
the
wrong?
actual thing has no battery life.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the thing.
None.
It would be too heavy.
Yeah. So
That's the reason why they said you could put it in your pocket.
So
Yeah.
I thought,
But-
Bruce,
yeah.
to your question, I don't know if you can disconnect it, or if you did, that would just turn it off.
Yeah.
So I think
So
if you're running out of juice, you just plug it in.
well, it seems to me like this is my observation was that the little bit that goes on the side here is almost like a little MagSafe like on your watch.
Yeah.
So that goes onto
Yeah.
there like that, and then that leads down to your little battery pack. So the question we're asking is the little plug that's connected, is there a plug connected into the battery pack, or is it a hardwired cable coming out? So in other words, when you're going to mains power, do you have to disconnect from the headset and put the mains one on there? That's what I'm
I'm
asking.
saying. I don't think anybody has answered that question.
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
I thought
That'll-
MKBHD said that there's USB-C on the battery pack. I don't think you plug
Okay.
in the headset.
Okay, well that would be good then. Yep.
And that's
So
what I
that means you
thought,
can
that
just-
you would plug it into the battery pack, and then
That's what
it
I figured,
travels
yeah.
through the battery to your headset, which basically charges the battery at the same time and keeps it charged up.
I'm just imagining people who have got it on and they've got the little battery pack plugged into mains power and then getting up to go walk somewhere and then dragging the thing with them. You know?
That's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
It's like picking up your phone when it's plugged in before MagSafe. You just
Yeah.
kind of yank it out the wall.
But the
You know,
difference
you know
is
what's
the
really
plug-
gonna suck though?
Hmm.
Like Apple's long history of making really shitty cables, and you just paid $3,500 for this headset, and it's gonna come with a battery pack with the same kind of cable that's gonna fray and
It's
fall
not.
apart after a month.
It's they said it's a special cloth cable. They showed it up close. It looked very fancy.
No.
Why don't they make all their other cables like
Oh,
that?
it just looks
that's
like
right.
that.
We want to sell more
No,
cables.
it doesn't look like that. If you go back and watch it again, and they do a little close up of it, and it's a woven cloth around the
braided.
outside of the wire.
It's a braided cable.
Right, so it just looks like that.
I can't see that. Just looks solid.
It's the woven
Yeah.
MagSafe
I can't
3.
see it.
I don't see any woviness.
Yeah, I
The
couldn't see
magnetic
any.
connector itself, when
any
you
wall.
plug it in, you have to turn it so that it locks, so it won't come off.
So see, this is, well, you can't see it here either, but this is woven.
Yeah, let's just agree that showing cables on camera is not gonna.
So like this, yeah.
This is woven. Look at this woven.
Yeah.
And does anyone care, anyone at all, anywhere that watched this, that the headband is 3D knitted? Because they made a big deal about 3D knitting.
Yeah.
And I
My
can care
grandma
less.
can do some
So
good.
it stays
3D
cool.
It looks comfortable. It looks springy. I'll give him that.
That's
Are-
so it doesn't trap heat.
And who was
I
all
think-
these tens of thousands of heads that they examined too? So
Yeah,
Their
right?
employees that they.
That's why Steve's not here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have no real interest in AR or VR or anything like that, so I don't really feel like this is marketed to me. But I definitely like the idea of number one, having essentially a gigantic screen right in front of you, so I could see it for using, for doing your computer work, having a nice big wraparound screen. I can definitely see advantage in that. And watching movies. I can definitely, I would love to
Well,
watch movies. using it.
Yeah, I agree with
here's
that.
the thing too, and you just mentioned this. The Oculus can do that right now because I do that on my computer all the time. I have the nice big screen right in front of me, and I could now. Granted, the Oculus doesn't have the little touch thing, the little pinches and whatnot. You can use hand gestures, but it's very difficult. I don't like using the hand gestures on the Oculus. But you could still do the big computer screen, by linking it to your computer, but your cable linked to your computer, not like the Apple one where it's wireless. So I think that's where they actually are a little bit of ahead of the Oculus than versus the Vision Pro.
Right.
I'm
I'm-
wondering
I'm-
if wireless is a requirement. Like, I don't like wireless. I got Ethernet and everything.
Well, Grudy
I
would
would
have a hard
think-
time with it.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that being the price. I think
way too
so
expensive.
the price
I
obviously
agree.
is very high. But right now, what we're looking at is obviously a first generation of an entirely new platform. This was created for developers. This was created for people who want to test it, who have that kind of money. As the developers and all the different software companies start to come out with material for this thing, apps and utilities and whatnot, we're going to see, I think, eventually a commercial version. You've got a Mac Pro and you've got the Studio, you've got the iMac Pro, and then you got the iMac. Obviously,
I think
iMac
it's
Pro
like
is
the
not
iPod
anymore,
Touch. That thing was useless when it came out, but everybody wanted it. And this is like, it only works with Apple apps. No one has developed anything for it. It still
So
has to
far.
grow. Yeah. So at first, I don't think it has. I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe my imagination is just letting me down at the moment, but I don't see it having a super value for the masses. It's very niche.
No,
but
not this particular model. No.
But
But
like
what I'm saying
the
is
iPod
eventually-
Touch, once it finally got an app store and all that, then the real value comes through.
Yeah. So
I mean-
like I said, as more material, as more software and more titles, more apps,
Yeah.
games, all that stuff comes out, I think Apple's eventually going to release not like a dumbed down version, but a lower cost version.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why they call this one the Vision Pro,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
And it has a hefty price tag because essentially you're buying a edge case product. You're buying new tech that essentially has no apps made for it aside from the ones that the manufacturer themselves developed. And hopefully whoever can spin something up in the next 6 months.
So
Well,
Jay
yeah,
and I were
but
talking about this previously before the show, and we figured that they're going to come out with a lower end version, calling it the Vision Air.
No, they got to do the Vision and then the Vision Air.
Yeah.
So the Air will be the low end one. I mean, Gita, you mentioned the Oculus, and it's not like in terms of like screen resolution, they're just not.
No,
in the same
it's
ballpark.
nowhere near.
So,
what this.
Yeah,
would be,
they've definitely aimed this as a really boutique product, and keep in mind this is coming from a company that sells a display for $5,000.
But
So-
Bruce, I'm talking about the Oculus 2, the Quest 2. Okay, the Quest 3 was just announced, and it's supposed to be much improved over. And I haven't seen anything on the Quest 3 yet.
Yeah.
So I'm
basically
know.
looking at. So if you look at, say, the Quest. So you're looking at the Quest 2, are you? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
the Quest 2
So
is the one that's actually out right now.
The highest res that I can see in this little list that I've got here, and admittedly Rift is the highest one. It's a horizontal resolution of 2160, so that's about half of what this is. The new one is showing. So,
And it
but-
is.
yeah, but the point that I was trying to make is that if you were to be using this as a display,
Oh, God.
it in comparison with hang on, I got to scroll down and see it. There we go. If in comparison with like their top of the line display, the Pro Display XDR, which is $5,000. Welcome, Steve.
Steve, we said
Hello.
no prototypes. Come on.
It's got QuickTime technology in here. Come on. It's not great.
But Bruce, you're correct though. The resolution on the Quest, yes, because we get what we call the screen door effect on it, especially when I do my racing and stuff. The resolution does suck on it, but I have a feeling that the Quest 3 is going to be much better. I know, we don't know much about it yet, but I just have a feeling that the Quest 3 is going to improve on that resolution a little bit. At least I hope it does.
One thing sorry,
Go ahead.
I keep
Go ahead,
interrupting.
Kate.
But one thing that the Apple VR set is going to do is push the industry forward, I think, to develop things with higher resolution, develop things that are a little bit more expensive if people are willing to buy a $3,500 AR VR headset, then maybe, a $2,000 VR headset is palatable for some. and it has better tech. So maybe
I agree. I think the
Pushing
best
the
thing
industry
to come out of this is a healthy competition, which is going to drive the prices down across the board.
Yep.
I mean, in my opinion, the price point, you know, a lot of people have laughed about, oh, $3,500. I think it's a perfectly acceptable Apple price tag for a product like this.
But they talked us into it. Like, we were on Discord chatting as the keynote was happening. Like, this thing is going to be insane. It's going to be unaffordable. What are they thinking? And over the next half hour, because of their clever choice of words and fancy images and cool things on the screen, when they announced the price, we were all like, oh, that's not too bad. Like, they convinced
I didn't say that.
Yeah. I knew it was going to be high. I didn't think it was going to be that high, but you know.
Oh, people were talking, oh, this is going to be a 5K, oh, 6K. Forget that, make it 10K. And, oh, that's not too bad at all. Like, they are good.
I mean, you know, obviously the thing has the ability to, you know, show your computer's display on it, but it's a computer in itself as well. You know, I mean, it sort of seems like it's, I don't know, about iPad level type, you know, sort of computing power, I suppose, inside it in terms of looking at your photos and all that sort of junk. Jay's already on the waiting list.
Yeah, I already got 2 of my kidneys listed on Craigslist. I'm just waiting for a buyer.
You mean 2 of your kidneys? You only have 2.
But there was a video earlier. I think either Kate or Dana shared it. It's a YouTuber. I forgot his name. He tried the thing on, and he said there's one big thing missing, and that's what is it called? Haptic feedback. And he was talking about this demo that he got, where, you know, the wall opens and a T-Rex came at him, like, ooh, cool. And then a butterfly sat on his finger. Like, he put his hand out, and all the cameras and the LiDAR saw where his hand was, and it made the butterfly land on his finger. And as soon as the butterfly landed, he was in it. He's like, wow, this is cool. And as soon as the butterfly landed, he's like, oh, right, this ain't real, because he couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next step is the gloves, you know, the haptic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is it going to take companies like Belkin, you know, to develop accessories for these, or is Apple going to do it? How much are they going to keep it closed off or open it up to companies like that?
Yeah, I mean, it can connect to Bluetooth devices, so I don't see why you can't just trick a controller into vibrating at that right time and you're wearing a glove. And
yeah, because if they make a cool laser tag solution for this with the full body suit and all that, the electrodes in it zap you when you get hit, I'm buying it.
And
No
as you
excuse,
fall
I'm
down
buying
and you hit it and you break the glass on it.
Well, speaking of that, what do we think? Are we talking $249 for Apple Care? You know, free glass replacement for the first 2 times you run into a wall. What do we think?
or lift your drink and hit your eyes.
Yeah.
It is interesting, isn't it, with that front being glass? And we know Apple love glass. They've been doing amazing things with glass for, you know, decades now. But you know, I'm just now picturing, you know, those people that replace screens on phones now also having to replace the screens on these
And this thing is
Apple
curved.
Vision things. Yeah, because it's going to happen. They're going to get dropped. They're going to smash. You know, you can definitely see it's going to happen. And then when you'll be there, you'll have your little projection of your face on it, and it'll have a crack in the middle of it.
I can see. Just put little googly eyes on the front.
Are the cracks like right in the middle of one of your cameras are, and it glitches every time you do something in that particular area?
The part, I mean, I was impressed by the whole thing, but the part that really made me go is when they said, you know, if you're sitting there and you look at your Mac, it will take the screen from your Mac and blow it up into the Apple Vision goggles. And I saw that and I almost peed a little. I was like, oh my God. That's awesome.
That is the killer feature for me. I know some people it might be movies or future games or whatever, but
that's where to
and
me,
this is coming from the guy with 81 inches of screen in front of him right now. Like, he's still, come on.
But I can still see the rest of my room.
That's where people should be starting to compare the cost of this with a high quality display. rather than comparing it to like sort of a VR headset, because you can look at it with the price and you can say, oh, this is expensive compared to other VR headsets out there. But if you look at it in comparison to a really good quality display, then if you can actually really start using this as a display instead of actually having a screen on your computer, might justify it for some people.
It's kind of my justification, because I was eyeing those the XDR displays on eBay just to see if I can snag one for a little bit cheaper. But the little bit cheaper is still more than the Apple Vision. Yeah. So to me, it seems like a fair compromise. I know it's really expensive and it's definitely something I'm going to have to save for, but at least it didn't start. Pre-orders didn't start immediately that day. I have 6-7 months to save up for it.
Oh, please. You put it in your budget before the keynote was over.
Just because
I wouldn't doubt that.
Do I buy the new MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, or the
Mac
Pro,
so we will just eat food once a day. It's cool.
If you think about it, it costs about the same as like my MacBook Pro that I got. So it's something you buy, you're going to use it for 3, hopefully 4 or 5 years. You're
never buy revision 1.
I know, but
please, half the people here are sitting on a revision 1 computer right now.
Now,
that's a good point.
Quick pause here. I just need to put this up very quick.
Mac Studio and Studio Display.
Just need a little reminder. We've been saying display a lot lately, and I get a little bit antsy if I don't get to see that every now and again. So.
You just got called out for it too.
Yes, that's right.
Now, quick question. Go ahead.
I was actually just going to ask if we're ready to move on, but it sounds like you're not.
No, I'm not. I have a question / concern. You remember, or you might remember, what the iPod Touch and then the iPhone did for content, like YouTube and stuff like that. It changed the way we consume content. Mm-hmm. And luckily, luckily VR is not that popular yet, but there's already a lot of VR content out there. Once this thing goes live and it sells like hotcakes, do you think it's going to be harder to find, not at first, but let's say 2-3 years down the road, it's going to be harder to find regular 1080p content or 4K content, and it's all going to be VR, AR, all that stuff?
No, I doubt
or no risk of that.
No. We've seen this before with the PlayStation stuff and all of the VR stuff that came before this. There's always like dedicated equipment to record in that medium, and there's always dedicated people hardware to watch in that medium. And especially at this price point, and let's assume a year or two later things are slightly lowered, it's still with the penetration of like the PlayStation stuff, which is what, $200-$300. I don't see it changing. I think you'll have the option for things like YouTube. There's a VR button, but I don't think it's going to dramatically change things until there's a different way to capture this stuff. When they put the 3D stereoscopic, whatever the heck cameras in an iPhone, yes, you'll see an uptick in that content. But until they do that, I don't think so.
Right, because right now I'm looking for SD interlaced content, and I just can't find it anymore. It's hard to find.
I got some videotapes to lend you.
I have a very quick little anecdote here. There's a game that I absolutely love playing on the iPad. It's called The Room. Came out 2012, so it's not a recent thing. It's called The Room, and then they followed that with a sequel called The Room 2, followed by another sequel called The Room 3, and then another one called
original.
The Room Old Sins. So there we go.
Disney?
Now, they are fantastic games, and I cannot recommend them enough. If you're someone who likes like Myst-style games with puzzles and stuff like that, the graphics on them are amazing. The puzzles are fantastic, and I really, really enjoy these games. It's like I can't talk them up enough. Then they later, this is a company called Fireproof Games that make it. They then released a game called The Room VR: A Dark Matter, and it was a game that only runs on VR equipment. VR headsets. You couldn't play it on your iPad or your iPhone anymore. You could only play it on VR headsets. And I was really disappointed by that because I had enjoyed these games so much. And then to suddenly find that I couldn't play the latest one because it was not available on the platform that I had played every other one up till that point. So I definitely see where you're coming from, Jay, that if some companies decide to pour their efforts into this as a platform rather than traditional platforms, then you might be in a situation where you get left out in the cold if you don't own one.
Yeah. Well, I tend to lag with computers. I mean, the Mac Pro being an exception because it's such a remarkable machine. But with laptops and stuff, I tend to lag about 7 years behind before I even start thinking about a replacement. iPhones, about the same, 6-7 years. iPads too. So when it comes time for me to get a new computer, I think the current generation Mac Studio is going to be enough. But there are some developments that are going to force me to upgrade some hardware sooner before I want to or before I even really need it. And I think Apple stepping into this AR space / VR in such a pretty impressive way, I think that's going to accelerate my need for such a device. Am I making sense? I don't want one, but I feel like I'm going to have to at some point.
I switched off a couple of minutes ago, so I'm not really sure if you're making sense, but I think so.
Oh, piss off.
Look, we're getting way too much credit here.
Professional.
We're professional.
So now, do we feel like we have done the Apple Vision Pro to death, or do we want to move on?
Who's going to buy one?
Can move on.
Okay, no worries.
I'd
Can I get a
say
show of
move
hands
on.
of who's going to get one?
So, no.
Come on, raise your hand, Kate.
Raise your hand, Kate.
I guess it's just
I'll probably wait
buying.
to the second or third.
Oh, Grudy's going to play hard to get. No, I don't need it. No. He's going to be the first one to have one on his desk.
Kate's already
Yeah,
started
there
the
we
budget spreadsheet for how many projects do I have to complete before I can afford one of these?
How many Mackie videos do I have to make?
So, okay, well, let's have a look at some of the other things that we saw during the Worldwide Developer Conference. Of course, we're doing these a little bit arse about face, but never mind. Shall we start with the hardware, the M2 Mac Pro?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Why not?
Okay, so raise your hand if you think this new Mac Pro is a good thing.
I am not raising my hand.
Okay, cool. So
Not good for me. Good for the ecosystem of
Yeah.
people who have money to burn.
It's not meant
in
for
movie
us.
studios and such. Yeah.
like
My-
Snazzy Labs buying one already.
we can.
Well,
One thing we
Please,
can
you know how
say
much
for
money
sure.
that guy must make per month? It's a drop in the bucket for him, I'm sure.
Yeah. Apple is going to be breathing a sigh of relief now because they have come good with their promise of changing everything over to Apple Silicon so they can walk away from Intel. They now have a firm date that they can say we are walking away from Intel on this date. So that I'm sure they'll be very, very pleased about that. I guess the question is, who is this computer for?
Not any of us.
I think this system is designed,
And that's
for-
okay.
I think this. I could never afford the damn thing, but I think that the system is designed for people who need stupid fast I/O, but via those PCI slots. You're not gonna have a ATI or a NVIDIA video AMD or whatever video card. Those days are gone. But you're gonna have like a triple 10 gigabit Ethernet ports or whatever, fiber ports, storage arrays. The picture that they showed during the keynote was very interesting. All the I/O cards they had there. If you look carefully, there's like a Sonnet one. There's all these other ones, but there's not like a video card. They're all like input output, or like they mentioned the Afterburner card during the keynote, and they said basically you don't need that because it's all on the silicon. So I think it's the peace of mind of like, oh, I have this proprietary thing that I need to connect to. Now it's just on the backplane of this board. I could shove it in. And a big studio buying these machines is not going to blink an eye from 4,000 to 7,000. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, well, we need that.
I mean, I think we can expect, given the fact that you can't upgrade the RAM on these things, I think we can expect that the people that will be buying them will probably be opting for high specs, so they don't need to upgrade them in the future. So they'll probably be getting the sorts of people that buy these. That's not me. The sorts of people that will be buying these, will just say, oh, look, let's get the one loaded up with RAM so we don't have to worry about that in the future. I mean, I think that's probably a fairly likely occurrence. Do you think?
I'd be interested to see what peripherals come out for those PCI card slots. I mean, if the interconnect is so fast with the memory, that's all great and all, but the PCI card slots are not any slouch either. I could see someone making like a huge SSD array that you use for memory or something. I mean, who knows? Yeah, I like Sean's idea.
A lot of people were excited when the 2019 Mac Pro came around, and I never saw a use for it, but a lot of people got excited because 1.5 terabytes of RAM. Some people in some industries need it. And now the max you're going to get is 192 gigabytes. I mean,
yeah, that was my biggest problem with it.
And all the PCI slots share 300 watts. It's not 300 watts per bus.
Yeah,
it's a shared 300 watts. You're not going to run anything useful with that unless it's
Plus,
I/O.
isn't PCI Gen 5 either just
Gen
coming
4.
out now? But I thought Gen 5 was just about to come out.
It's not widely out or popular right now, but it is. The spec is out. I don't think anybody's really making that much hardware with the PCIe 5.
What spec was the 2019 running? I can't remember. What spec was the 2019 running? I can't remember.
Probably 3 or 2.
I was thinking it was 3.
It might be 3.
And by then, Gen 4 was out.
Yes.
And it's like when the original the 5.1 Mac Pro came out. I mean, it came out around the time Gen 3 came out. It seems 2. Like Apple's always at least one generation behind on PCIe
and USB,
which has always bothered
and
me.
Everything else.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't go with some proprietary slot. I mean, they know that if they build it, they will come, but
it's true.
I still think that would have pissed off a lot of professionals, because if you've got a professional out there that is looking at buying this new hardware and then is going to say, I'm going to take the card, let's just say it's some sort of communications card for or something like that. They're going to say, I'm going to take this card out of the old hardware and plug it into the new hardware. If they had to go and get all new hardware for that PCI stuff, I think they'd be pretty pissed off.
Apple doesn't care. They've been doing that forever.
If they didn't care, they wouldn't have bothered making a Pro, to be honest.
Yeah. I just think putting the ARM Pro in the existing case, who the hell needs that amount of fans for a case that has nothing in it?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I was thinking that, yeah.
Well,
I guess if you fill it up with cards.
I was looking at the picture here, and I'm like looking at this thing. Jay's right. It has nothing in the case. It looks like a bare backplane in there.
I hope it's a stopgap.
I thought it was so that they could run the fans slowly and have bigger fans, multiple fans, but run them slow so it's quiet.
Like the G5.
9 fans. That's exactly why they did that. Yeah.
Well, I'm very curious to see how often they update this damn thing, because as we've all seen, the Mac Pro was always the last machine to get love, and before that, it was the Power Macs weren't that bad. But ever since Apple switched to Intel and then Apple Silicon, they've been updating machines much faster than they did in the Power PC days. So I'd be very curious to see if this Mac Pro is going to be updated next year or the year after, or what they're going to do with it, because if you wait from, obviously there was the transition in between. You had, the 2013 and then the 2019. Obviously, I mean, the transition wasn't there yet, but they still took their sweet ass time, is what I'm saying. I hope that they update this thing more frequently, but
keep in mind that, okay, this is very different on the inside in terms of the silicon that it uses, but it looks exactly the same on the outside as the 2019. So this one here in many ways is not not that big a change anyway. I mean, so it looks exactly the same. Yes, we know it's got Apple
It's
Silicon.
identical, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's made for particular people. I've seen a lot of people on the Mac Pro like Facebook enthusiast groups, which I'm a member of, and I believe some of you guys are as well, because we're still running the Mac Pros. There's a lot of people that seem like kind of angry and disappointed with the end result, and it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was essentially going to be a Mac Studio with PCI slots.
It's literally Mac Studio. Yeah.
I suspected them to go ahead.
If you look at the close-up photo, it's just a Mac Studio glued in the corner.
I suspected that Apple wanted to get rid of the Mac Pro. I mean, the gap between Apple Silicon and the 2019 was already so big. But instead of pissing a lot of people off and just saying, hey, this product is now discontinued, say, hey, let's turn it into a really bad deal. And then people are not going to buy it. Then we'll have an excuse, because there's just no way anyone would prefer a Mac Pro over a Mac Studio. I mean, the Mac Studio, which we'll get to, can drive, 8K displays? And it has the same specs, the same CPU, the same RAM.
And you're only paying, and you're basically paying over $2,000 for PCIe slots. That's pretty much it.
Look, I do have a theory on this, and I think that the Mac Studio is something that not the Mac Studio, the Mac Pro is something that ends up in big, sort of film studios and production companies that are using this, and then it becomes a bit of a sort of an advertising thing. It's just like it puts, it's like, oh, look at this Apple hardware that they're using, and this is the company that made that movie you just watched, and it just becomes a bit more of a kind of a, it's lifting the profile of the company, that sort of thing, making it a like giving it a kind of like a celebrity status, that sort of thing.
That's exactly what they're already doing now with the Mac Studio. Look at this audio production, and the people that made this movie use a studio.
Yep.
Yeah. But
I guess sorry, go ahead.
No, I apologize. I was just thinking, if you've spent thousands of dollars on all these I/O cards, let's say you have 25 workstations, and you spent thousands of dollars per card on these things, and like to Bruce's point before, now you're buying this new thing, you just want to move the cards around. I don't think that's a bitter pill to swallow as far as the price point for these systems, and it's a drop in the bucket compared to, I'm sure, their operating costs or whatever. But for mere mortals, it makes absolutely no sense. But also, it's an advertising thing of, just like the G5s and the Power Macs, where you have this beautiful looking machine on your desk, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the powerhouse that made XYZ. Not that you couldn't do it with the Studio if you didn't need all that I/O. I'd just be very curious to see what cards people are using in these, because I'd like to know what I'm missing.
So the question I have, though, Steve, is what happens when somebody comes out, and I'm pretty sure they're out there, I haven't looked yet, but the Thunderbolt PCIe enclosures that you can actually hook up to your
They're
Mac
not
Studio.
Compatible at the current point with Apple Silicon. There's no support for that type of device. However, I wouldn't be surprised if, because of the hardware software configuration in the next OS for the Mac Pro or the current update or whatever, that people will be like, oh, here's a driver for a PCI plane. Let's see how we could mess around with this. I think there is, it's not eGPU compatibility, but I think Sonnet makes it's Jay's favorite company. One of those places does make an enclosure that is Thunderbolt, and it gives you these PCI cards, but they strictly say there's no GPU compatibility. It's only for communication, storage, camera I/O, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about.
That is possible.
That's
sorry.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think the eGPU stuff is coming back.
No. I agree with you on that. I think the eGPU stuff is dead. But having an external enclosure for your Mac Studio with Thunderbolt, a cable going to it, that should be feasible right now.
It is feasible right now, I think.
Yeah, and
There we
There
go.
we go.
I think it's just a matter of the audience that this is for.
Guess who's going to get muted?
If you are a studio production house, like Bruce was saying, with multiple
There you go.
machines, you don't
Mac
want to
Studio
spend time
compatible.
futzing around building out a system.
So,
or
how much are those, Bruce? Some of those. I mean, just.
That's
Oh,
Well,
not
Bruce, yes, but I'm driving it. $700.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
They
thought.
got 3 slots for $700. So if you really needed 1 or 2 card slots, then that's the way to go. As long as
the Mac Pro
bandwidth
just
is
doesn't
there.
make sense. And I'm
Yeah.
ride or die Mac Pro forever. But my next Mac, unless the current Mac Pro is a stopgap, and the next one that comes out is like, okay, we now support external graphics card. We found a way to do it. Blah blah blah. As far as I'm concerned, the Mac Pro died yesterday.
I don't
with
think
this
they're ever
upgrade.
gonna.
That's a good point, though, Jay. What would make you get a Mac Pro over a Mac Studio? Would it be the external graphics cards or graphics cards in general?
The fact that I want my computers to last more than 5 to 7 years. Like, even though the 2019 Mac Pro didn't really see a lot of updates, you can pop a new CPU in there yourself. You can add more RAM. You can do all this stuff. Now,
Well,
I will
unfortunately,
be
don't
at
think that's the
peace.
case.
Yeah, I will be at peace with the fact that whatever RAM you're going to get is what you're going to get. And I'll never need more than 32 gigs. I mean, I got 128 in this one. I'll never use it, ever. But if I can at least upgrade the graphics card, the CPUs last longer than Apple or anyone else tells you. I mean, we can run Big Sur on a Core 2 Duo. It'll be slow, but it'll run. These things are capable for a lot longer than anyone gives them credit for.
But
I think the same will apply for the M1 and the M2 and all the M's that are coming.
I don't know about that because M series chips are basically just really large iPhones, and once Apple drops support, you can't update iOS on the iPhone.
Yeah, but that's iOS. They lock it down. They're not going to be able to do that on the Mac without a serious rebellion.
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen with that T2.
But
Isn't
aren't the updates
Isn't the
signed
T2
already?
Yeah, isn't the T2 the killer of things like OpenCore?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of the updates on as far as the restore process goes, it's very convoluted. There's it's like an iPhone PSW or whatever IPSW, the file, and you have to restore it to your machine, and I mean, I'm sure someone could hack it. More power to them, but I think it's very locked down at this point.
Yeah, there's already ways to put iOS 14 back on your current phone, and it can be done. But your Bruce, your Mac Studio, you're stuck with what you got, which is Ventura.
Mini.
Well, you got the Studio too.
No, Mini.
Right?
No, I got the Mini.
Oh no, I'm confusing the minis. Your Office Mini, you're stuck on Ventura, but your Shed Mini, you can go back to Monterey if you want to.
Yes, I can.
You still have a choice. Nobody can run an OS older than what it came with. That's always been the case. Yep. But at least you have an option. On the phone, it's not that easy. It can be done, but
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think the future for Apple is not going to include any user upgradable memory or graphics anytime in the near future. They have built themselves into a corner where they've said the speedy access to a GPU and the RAM is what we want rather than compatibility or upgradability from other vendors and this. They're just going to do it all internal. And so I would love that to happen, but it ain't going to happen.
On one side, I'm happy with that, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Is computers are an incredibly important part of my day-to-day life. I use computers for work. I use computers for hobbies. Computers are a massive thing. So if I were to say, okay, well, the cost of that comes at me having to buy a new one every few years, put some money aside. That's just the normal cost of life, because that's what I use. If I put some money aside, like I do for some of the subscription services or something like that, and then every few years, I've saved up enough money to go and buy a new computer. Maybe every 5 years or something. Let's just say, for argument's sake. Now that side of it, I'm okay with. I don't mind it from a cost perspective. I do mind it from a wastage percentage. I hate the idea of things being built in a way where they say, oh, look, we're making these all out of recycled equipment. But the problem is that manufacturing something new uses so much more energy, and recycling something uses more energy than just continuing to use the same thing as long as possible. So I'm kind of fine with the idea of being forced into buying a new thing from a cost perspective, but I do really object to it from an environmental perspective.
I come
So
from a
they're just
different angle. I object because tinkering with old Macs is my hobby. You know, and if they take that away, 10 years from now, I can't really tinker with the 2023 Mac Pro instead of, you know, dust it off or spray paint it. Like with a car, I don't care. As soon as it starts burning oil or, you know, there's a more efficient model, trade it in, go. I don't care. It's a car. But these are my
Put some
Macs.
rims on the Mac Pro, Jay.
Leave my Macs alone.
But Jay,
Will
your
you?
Mac Pro is going to become like the beige of Macs.
I mean, look at us. Look at us. We're still tinkering with, you know, Macs from 1984. So, you know,
Y'all traders. Y'all are Mac Studios.
I just say that if you you know, you can keep tinkering with old Macs. That's just not what you're going to be using to be productive.
You could put Unix or Linux on it, and there's versions of Linux that could run on the Apple.
That's just crazy talk.
I'm sure development will move forward with that, and that could be an OS that is updated and maintained for people that still want to use their old Apple Silicon hardware.
Yeah,
but that's a future problem.
I think also. Oh, sorry, Bruce.
I'll just be very quick with this. I know I'm hogging the limelight here. Sorry. So there was a time when, you know, when something like the Mac Pro was something that really appealed to me, and it had a lot to do with storage more than anything. It had a lot to do with being able to put loads and loads of hard drives in there. Okay, display card, that's nice. And then when I put in USB 3, okay, that was good. But one of the things that's different now to the way it was before is the speed of I/O in terms of external devices. So, you know, when on an old Mac Pro, I can get the fastest hard drive that I want, and I can plug it into the internal, and it's limited by the speed of the SATA, you know, sort of, you know, system. So, when with using the little mini that I have here with these USB 3 slots, I can plug in, you know, an SSD into the external, you know, port, and it absolutely flies. The thing zooms past. It goes, you know, 10 times faster than an internal hard drive in the Mac Pro. And so for me, the appeal of having all of that room inside has kind of gone a bit, because I can plug hard drives in externally and get the same sort of speed that I would as having them internal.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. The I/O has improved so much from the stance of FireWire 800 used to be like the fastest I/O we had on these systems. And then that was it for a while. And then Thunderbolt came around, and it was like, great. I mean, we finally have a direct line to, you know, the CPU or the chipset or whatever. And I think that the amount of lanes that we have with that is only going to increase. You're going to get Thunderbolt 5, 6, 7, whatever. And I'm sure there's going to be ways to do things that Apple doesn't really envision for these Pro systems. Just like you have a freaking Mac Mini, you plug a Thunderbolt whatever into it, and you're on playing with SSDs stupid speed, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's just yeah, no, never mind. I'm gonna get all philosophical on you. It's like people, I need gigabit internet. Why? YouTube. Okay, you don't need it. Dial-up is good enough for you to watch 720p. Like, oh, I need to copy data faster. Why? I don't know. I just want it. Why? You're going to spend all this money just for faster this and faster that, and you don't need it. You can sit there and wait 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that made me buy an Apple Silicon Mac was Final Cut Pro, and this thing has completely changed my sort of ability to edit efficiently, in comparison to the Mac Pro. So in that regard, a lot of the stuff that I do really doesn't matter. When I'm writing code, I can write code on a white plastic MacBook. It really I can write code on a Macintosh SE30. But when it comes to doing the video editing side of things, when it comes to doing the video editing, this little the 2023 Mac Mini with the the M2 Pro or whatever it's called, or one of the M2s, it just Ultra. Is it Ultra? It flies. It really flies.
Yeah, I bet.
And It's just totally, it's totally changed things for me. So I'm very happy in that regard. I've got a gazillion things hanging off it with USB and whatnot. But anyhow, I've digressed. Does anyone else have anything to add to the Mac Pro before we move on?
I have a little segue. Like, you say you are opposed to not being able to repair and upgrade stuff because of the environment and landfills and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So how can a person like you, that it feels so strongly about that, support something as useless as the MacBook Air?
And we will move on to the MacBook Air. So this is another new product that Apple have released. And it is a 15-inch MacBook Air. And now Jay has a bit of an issue with the MacBook Air. And Jay, I'd like you to tell me, what don't you like about this computer?
We're an hour and 15 minutes in, and we barely covered 20%. So I'll keep it brief. We already have a 15-inch laptop. It's called a MacBook Pro. The Air is supposed to be light and thin and tiny and convenient for, I don't know, people that want a laptop in the bathroom. I don't know. A 15-inch MacBook Air just doesn't make sense. Changed my mind.
I tend to agree, but I'm not going to hate on them for it. I'm just not going to buy one.
Hating on stuff is what I do. We all have our thing, okay?
I think it's the stupidest thing Apple's done in a long time because, like Jay says, we have the performance already in the MacBook Pro. Why do we need a MacBook Air as 15 inches?
Because it's $1,000 plus cheaper. That's why.
Yeah.
But it's literally the same thing.
No, it's $1,000 plus cheaper
because it's heavily crippled spec-wise.
Okay, so
yeah.
then
I mean,
but
in that case, then why do we have the Pro?
That's true. Why do we have the Pro? It's because it's made better, for one thing.
I think this is replacing the iBook PowerBook,
and it's got some more ports in it.
Yeah, I mean,
look,
Apple. Sorry, I was thinking Apple probably did some market research and saw that 15-inch laptops were probably the sweet spot for an entry-level machine for students, and that they want to consume content on a little bit bigger screen than 13 inches, and so they are catering to that. An entry-level 15-inch.
The 13
I believe
for travel.
Yeah. Sorry. I think there is a market for this computer. I mean, like it or not, I think there is a big market for this computer. I think it will sell like hotcakes. And at the end of the day, Apple are a hardware company. They want to make things that sell. And, we can point out all of these reasons about, okay, they've already got the 15-inch MacBook Pro and everything. But to bring something like this with that beautiful big screen, I mean, let's face it, when you sit in front of those big 15-inch Retina screens, with a high contrast and everything like that, they are pretty spectacular to look at. And I can just see people walking into the computer shop, seeing the 13-inch there, and then seeing the 15-inch and going, I want that one. And being able to get it $1,000 cheaper than the Pro, I think it just means they're going to fly off the shelves. Steve?
It has a 1080p webcam finally.
Yes.
So we can all agree that anyone that goes out to buy a MacBook Air supports the destruction of our environment. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, when the MacBook Air is no longer usable, you could grind it down into a cleaver and just chop those rainforest trees down.
But look, I'm very happy that Apple is continuing to embrace the MagSafe connector. I mean, one of the biggest issues I've had with a lot of those smaller computers is the fact that they've said, we've only got 2 ports on here. And it's like, okay, I can live with 2 ports. But if I want to plug my computer in and now I'm down to only 1 port, I get pretty pissed off with that. So having essentially adding a 3rd port by having the MagSafe power connector, to me, that's a huge plus that they're effectively adding a port, in my opinion. So 3 ports are better than 2. So I like that side of it.
I love MagSafe. That is.
I lost the stupid MacBook Air with the 1 port I was going to show.
This is the 2 port with the USB-C, but I have them on both sides. So
yeah, well, that's right. See, like my wife's laptop, that's got two of the Thunderbolt or USB-C or whatever, 2 on each side. That's great. The cheapy one that I've got, 2016, whatever the frig it is, I don't know, MacBook Pro something. It's a little one. It's only got 2 ports on one side. And that's it. 2 ports on one side, and that's just not enough, in my opinion. So.
We can take a quick peek at what the new MacBook Air has to offer. if we can get rid of that. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
The specs are not bad,
No, they aren't.
right?
So you like it?
For a $1,200 laptop, I'm surprised it was not more. I mean, if you're going with air to air, the 13 inches $1099, and then the 15 inches is only $200 higher than that. Statistically speaking, for Apple, usually there's a much more there's a much higher increase between screen sizes.
So why doesn't
it's
this have
interesting.
Face ID if it has that little cutout like it's supposed
Because
to?
you have Touch ID.
Because
But-
that's probably like an extra $50 of components that Apple said. Now you don't get that. You need the Pro.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
even think my Pro
MacBook
has it.
Pros don't have Face ID.
Yeah,
have
they
Touch
don't.
ID.
I'll give it
They're
this
all
though.
Touch ID.
The battery life is a lot better than the Vision Pro.
Yeah. Yes, I mean,
True,
look,
that's
18
true.
hours of battery life is pretty. Looking
That's
at those,
crazy.
I'd buy one of those. I would happily buy one of those. Look, I know, but I would.
I know you would.
No, if they make an 11-inch, Bruce will buy it.
Yes, I love the 11-inch computers.
Then again, GT, what was your first Mac?
It was a MacBook Air.
I like how you looked up to GT as you yelled at him.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce!
Listen, we all start off stupid in this life. You know, you get better as you go.
Jay used a PC.
He's on a Mac Pro
we
now.
understand.
He's fine.
But
So, yeah.
I am getting what we're going to talk about next here, the updated studio.
Yeah, the Mac Studio, and that's
Enjoy
obviously
your
the other
20%
thing that
speed improvement.
Apple have released here, and I think we all consider that the Mac Studio is a pretty good computer in the Apple lineup in terms of, yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, I bucked the trend, and I have my reasons for doing that, and I don't really have any regret about that. But there's no doubt about the fact that the Mac Studio is an ideal computer for a lot of people. So, yeah, I mean, that's.
It's definitely
I think
hitting
it
a lot
just-
of sweet spots for sure.
Yeah, I think it really filled in the gap that the
Yeah.
iMac Pro left, and the gap of not having a newer Mac Pro. You know, I think that they really hit a home run with that, and I'm glad that it's not just a one-off. That now the Mac Pro is here and they're not going to update it, because that would have been a very Apple thing to do.
And
If you compare it with the Mac Pro, it's essentially you don't have the PCI expansion. So if you don't need the PCI expansion, you don't need those strange PCI cards to control stadium lights and concert stuff and fog machines or any of those weird esoteric cards. Then you just get
Well,
Mac
even if you
Studio.
did, you still got those little add-ons you could buy too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But all you defenders of unupgradability, what does this mean for Mackie? 20 years from now, Mackie wants to move house. He wants a better shell. There's nothing there. What's he going to do?
Well, the awesome thing about Mackie is that sometimes he can just transfer to any computer using.
There you go.
If there's an Ethernet port or Wi-Fi, he'll find a way.
Oh, okay. All right.
Token ring is
So-
where he draws the line.
I'm just going to, I'm going to first, I'll do this in US dollars first. I'm going to just grab myself a super mega high spec. So I'm getting a M2 Ultra with 24 core CPU, 76 core GPU. I'm going to take it all the way up to 192 gigs of RAM. I'm going to whack 8 terabytes of storage in there. We don't need Final Cut Pro or Logic Pro. No, thank you. And I am going to be spending $8,800 for that.
The
Yeah,
SSD
that's
is
something
where they
that
get you.
That's something I noticed about the new Mac Pro. Remember before when they first came out in 2019, if you maxed the thing out, it was like $50,000.
$52,000.
If you
Now if you
max
max
out
it
the
out-
new one, it's just under 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pricing is not bad. I mean,
Pricing
I'm not
is
going to
pretty
run
good.
out and get one, but you
Yeah.
know. But question, Grudy, you were the first one of us to have an M1 Mini, right?
I was the first one to have a M1 Mac Pro, a MacBook
Okay.
Pro.
How is that M1 aged? Because that's been what, over a year now?
It's been 2 years now.
2 already. Damn, I'm old.
3, going on 3.
So are there
M1's been
any
out
signs
long.
of slowing down, or you know?
I wouldn't know because I stopped using it the day I got this MacBook Pro.
I knew it.
Well,
The second I
I
asked,
don't
I
even
knew
know
it.
where it is.
Can I
It's
borrow a
somewhere in my
laptop from you?
house.
Wait, if I
That's where it is.
can I keep it?
But
So he's like,
honestly,
"Can I
the
have
last
it?"
time I used it, because I take it to work sometimes because we have online classes we have to do sometimes. It was still just as quick as ever. It didn't seem to really slow down.
Yeah,
any.
they're not going to get long in the tooth for a while.
I-
I'm
I
on
don't
one
think.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I'm on my M1 MacBook
Yeah.
Pro, M1 Max.
I'm on my M1 Max.
And
Yeah.
that's
So,
my-
So how
Bruce,
many
I just
how many
oh.
operating systems have you updated since you got the machine? 2?
yes, I
3?
think 2.
And it's still as snappy as ever?
The original
Yeah.
M1
Okay.
is 3, I think, and this one I've updated twice, and it's still just as snappy as ever.
Because that's my primary concern. We don't have enough data yet on these M chips to know how's it going to be 5 years from now. 7 years
Well,
from now.
Ventura is a pile of crap.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So Bruce, I spec'd out for American dollars here the studio, and it's $8,799.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, is that? Oh, you said it. What
Yeah.
was
That's so.
Australian
If
dollars?
that's in Australian dollars, it's 13,800.
Ah, gotcha.
If you buy the same thing from the
Okay.
Australian store, yeah, it's 13,800.
What a
I thought you
bargain.
were.
8,800.
Okay, I thought you were saying Australian dollars.
No,
But with
no.
the Mac Pro, you get 2 more Thunderbolt ports, so it's so worth the extra $6,000.
I'm using a Mac Mini, M1 Mac Mini as my streaming Mac, and I have found that admittedly it replaced an old 2012 i7, but it's very, very zippy. Now I'm using Monterey on that, and it's definitely still a very quick computer. Yeah, but we will see. I'm probably never going to upgrade it to Ventura. I'll wait until the next one comes out and upgrade straight to that, because I'm really not a fan of Ventura at all. And I have high hopes for Satsana or whatever they've called it.
I was a little surprised that they updated the studio instead of the iMac. The iMac, we're going on almost 3 years now.
Yeah,
The M1.
It is interesting, isn't it?
It's
I think they're gonna wait.
odd.
I think they're gonna release that on a different cycle. But I would not be surprised if that's like
so
what is it June
Brock-
now? If that's like a fall event type thing.
right.
Yeah.
Brock kind of mentioned it earlier. He was like, "Why is the iMac still languishing on the M1, so to speak?" But again, we're talking about the M1 getting older, and we use M1 iMacs at work, and they are fast. They are so fast. Given the software that we use, primarily Adobe software, they just fly. They handle everything just perfectly. But yeah, I was a little surprised that they didn't upgrade those. It could be because they're a more popular unit and they need the kind of infrastructure to keep up with demand. I don't know, but
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, seeing where I work at, I work in a store that sells these computers a lot, and the biggest one I see going out as far as Apple products is the MacBook Pro. I see very few iMacs going out. I've seen a couple of studios go out recently, but the biggest seller for most part is the MacBook Pro. And
Because the
that's-
iMac is hideous.
Yes, it is.
Well,
I'm
think
not a
the-
huge fan of the look. No.
The argument for the iMac is you get a 5K display. Display. For an astounding price in that package. So if you're a person who
True.
wants a desktop and it does not need to be like a Mac Studio or whatever, I think the iMac is still a fantastic price point. But we say M1 versus M2 and all this stuff, but it's also like we're comparing Apple's chips to Apple's chips. If it was like an Intel i5 versus an i7 or an i9, we would have different benchmarks and an understanding of like the real nitty-gritty inside of the chips and all this stuff. But I mean, the M1 and the M2, it's like what, a 20% faster, at least for the Mac Studio, they were saying. It's like a 20% faster type thing. It's not a huge leap. So I mean, I think I could at least say, okay, well, it's not that bad on one side to have them not upgrade it, but on the other side, it's like, well, everything else is M2 now. Why is this product languishing
Yeah.
behind? I don't think Apple's going to sell as many with somebody who's from an analytical point of view going, well, that's old. I don't want that. I want this one, and so I think they would have to update them fairly soon in order to, make sure that, they're spec bumped or whatever. I don't think they're going to change anything about them. Maybe add some new colors. But,
yeah, they might make the colors match the iPhone so that you can buy your new iPhone and you get your matching iMac with it.
Okay, so I think we can probably move now to, well, we're really looking at software now. So does anyone mind if I just pop off and have a nap?
Well, how about instead of just covering it all, we just each give our top 3 of features that we actually remember from the keynote.
Bruce is going to snore through it.
I honestly don't remember much of anything from it because it was just so boring.
I just remember it's called Sonoma now.
Yeah,
which is where NASCAR will be racing.
I have to admit, iOS 17 is finally an iOS. It looks like anyway that is actually worth upgrading quickly because it's going to have a lot of new features.
Oh yes.
Other than that,
the iPhone, the little standby thing, I'm gonna love that. Putting it on my magnetic charger that I have, because it stands it up anyway, so I could just rotate it sideways now and have a clock.
That's called standby, right?
A standby.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
So I updated
but I have a
the beta
13.
already.
It's not going to do anything.
What?
I went to the beta on day 1, and I have an iPhone 12, and standby mode does work. You just have to tap.
It does?
It's kind of Apple Watch, where
it's like the watch,
will show up when you tap the table.
Oh, so it doesn't stay on all the time?
Vibration.
No, it's only the 14
only
and
does it
onward.
on the 14.
Oh, okay.
Sit there all day long slapping your phone.
Yeah.
I hated that with the watch. I don't know why the watch, when you put it, because I have a charger that stands up also for my watch, and I put it sideways, but like Kate said, you have to tap or somewhere near it to get it to vibrate a little bit before it'll show.
It doesn't take much though. I mean, I just walk into the room. I mean, I'm pretty fat, but I just walk into the room when it comes on. So
I just want to like look over at it and say, "Oh, that's what time it is," and then roll back over.
That's what you need an iPhone 14 for.
Well, I have a 14, so
I just yell, "Hey Siri," and then the screen lights up enough to do the Siri thing, and then the time is there. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Speaking of which, you won't have to say "Hey" anymore.
Yeah, that's
which I think. I think that's going to be a really bad thing because it's going to be like saying the A word to the people that have the A word.
You don't have to. It's an optional thing.
Yeah.
And also,
I'd rather still say hey.
I have it right now on my phone, and when I wear devices like my AirPods that don't have the new OS on them or the new software, it'll say this device isn't compatible with just saying Siri. You have to say hey.
She's being careful about that.
Hey Siri.
It's a change.
Who's not on headphones? Huh?
The worst, like as you know, I work with ultrasonic cleaners quite a bit, and ultrasonic cleaners emit sound that really confuses the audio going into the watch, phone, anything. And if you stand there with a phone next to an ultrasonic cleaner, it'll just be like, I'm sorry, I couldn't find, I'm sorry, I couldn't find on the web, I'm sorry. And it's just over and over and over and over. Could you repeat that? So yeah, they definitely don't like ultrasonic cleaners.
I think it's cool that, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Dana, go. No, go.
I was just, I think it's cool that you can do the Harry, and then ask it a question, and if you have a follow-up question, you don't have to say Harry again.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
That's pretty cool. I've wanted that so many times. I'll be like, I'll say, what's the forecast today? I always check that before I leave the house in the morning, and I'll get either the detailed forecast, which that's what I want, or I get should be sunny today, and then I'll say, no, that's not what I asked. I want the forecast. And so, I have to say, the command again and then ask a separate question. So I think it's
that's
pretty cool.
natural adaptation to it. It's something they should have had years ago, because I remember when I was teaching my grandmother to use her iPad, her vision wasn't the best. So Siri was great at, open this or play this or whatever. But if it got it wrong or it didn't understand, it's like you had to say it again. You had to hold down the button again. So allowing it to just be open, like an open channel for you to say something again and it hear it within 30 seconds or whatever, I think is something that we've been asking for.
What about you tell her to play a song, and if that's not the one you want to hear, you'll say, stop,
Right.
So what about the live voicemail?
That's kind of
I think that was
I
pretty
think
neat.
it's awesome. The call screening, I've been missing that for the last 20 years.
That's pretty cool.
Wasn't that just with FaceTime though? I could be wrong.
Well, they did two things. They finally did an inbox for FaceTime, which they were supposed to do. It was rumored in like 2012 or something. And so there's like the basically like leave a video message for FaceTime. And then if you have a voicemail come in, a phone call come in, and you send it to voicemail, as the person is leaving the voicemail, you get a transcription live. And so you could see if it's something important, you could pick it right up. You don't have to wait to hear the message recorded, it processed on the server, pushed to your phone, etc. So I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I guess. I just hate it when people ring me up. So if they could just have a feature where I can just stop everyone from wanting to ring me, that would be awesome.
Just throw your phone in a pit. I think my top three updates that I was excited about personally was Apple TV now has a Find My feature with the Siri remote. So there is some sort of AirTag-ish type functionality in that remote that was previously not documented for whatever reason. And as long as you have iOS 17, you'll be able to find it, which is great because the stupid remote gets in all the couch cushions all the time.
Is that for the 4K or the?
It says you just need a second gen Hey Siri remote or whatever. So you could pay $59 if you don't have the silver remote, I guess.
Okay, so that's a silver one because I have that. Yeah. So
yeah, me too.
The second one I liked was sharing of the AirTags to another Apple ID, because I have my AirTags on keys, and for months after getting them, my wife kept getting a notification on her phone because she has a separate Apple ID. There's an AirTag following you. There's an AirTag following you. And she would just dismiss it, but she'd have to do that every single time. And it's stupid. And you want to keep those notifications on in case, someone actually, tries to put a foreign one on you. And the third one I really liked, especially when we search for our stupid chat thread, which is like 1 billion messages in size, is
your fault.
Is the filtered and complex searches in iOS messages. So you can say, I'm looking for this phrase by this person. The only way I had to do that previously is I had to use something like Phone View, download a PDF of every damn conversation and do a search, and even then it wouldn't work. So that
holy crap, that's like 4 years of conversation in that chat.
I had to find a PDF from Bruce once, and he was asleep, and it was like I could have just waited until Bruce to wake up because it took me that long to find the damn thing.
Well, one thing I will say is I don't know if this is just a Ventura thing, because I have virtually skipped Monterey before I went to Ventura, but the search within messages is so much better in Ventura than it was with the previous OSs that I used. It's much, much better at finding things. There's no doubt about that. Adding the ability to filter, I think is a great addition. So very happy with that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying the new AI language, whatever they called it, mechanic for autocorrect, but also dictation, because dictation has been terrible for a long time. So
yeah,
I'm not going to say that those are my two of my top 3 favorite things.
Oh,
but,
look at Kate! She got the Snoopy.
We like Kate. We know Kate's favorite now. Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
Remember, as soon as that came up on there, on Discord, she was like Snoopy, like that.
Does Charles Schultz's estate get a cut of that?
We won't say the actual words she said, but
Snoopy, Snoopy on my watch. Why do my lights turn off? That's not good.
I don't know, but you look evil right now.
Snoopy made me evil. No.
I had to step away for a minute, so I don't know if I can give my top 3.
Sure.
Steve stole most of my top 3.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should be. The search filters, and because there's an insane amount of chat, and filtering is going to help. All of my excitement mostly comes for iOS. macOS does some cool stuff. A lot of good security and privacy enhancements that I'll gladly get into once the OS is released. That's probably a whole show I can do on that. But I lost the word. The call screening with the voicemail, because I get a lot of voicemails that are spam or they're not even for me, So instead of just, it's going to be awesome. And there's another one. I use a lot of instead of typing everything, I just hold down a button, record a voice message, and send that in the chat. And now that can be transcribed as well.
Yeah,
which is
that's
going to be
that
pretty
was
awesome.
neat.
I knew you'd like
I
that.
was
Yeah.
curious of how they would transcribe.
We are going to find out.
Install the beta. Find out.
I can't believe nobody has mentioned the new stickers.
I don't care.
I don't care.
When they launched into that, like the first thing they were talking about, all these, this is so cool. You can do with stickers. I'm like, is this what it's going to be?
They should have done that in iOS 12, like the release after the initial release of stickers. Like they should have updated, because I mean, you've seen a lot of sticker packs that already have that stuff. I do like how they reorganized the toolbar to hold all that stuff, because it was always like above the keyboard and I always be like, you hit the wrong thing.
Does this mean we're finally getting the bunny sticker pack back?
I have to dust off Xcode, and the problem is their template for idiots like me to make a sticker pack is broken, and they never updated the template. So if you go to Xcode right now, well, last I checked, and go make a new project and use the sticker thing, if you go to like push it or test it, it goes, it failed because blah, blah, blah. And if you look on Apple's forums, it's all the same people being like, it's not working. So.
Yeah, I don't get how they can waste half an hour, and I'm probably exaggerating, but that's what it felt like. Half an hour on stickers, and then just gloss over stuff like being able to do offline maps or the check-in. Like, hey, I arrived safely, this and there.
Because the
glossed over that.
Don't care. The teenagers want the stickers. That's what the kids are into.
They had to throw something in for the young ones.
It's for the
I tried sending
youngsters.
y'all a sticker earlier, but it didn't go through because I think only people with the new OS can see the new stickers.
Okay, we get it. We get it. You're fancy.
Only
We're
the
not.
cool people can see the stickers.
Yeah, we get it. The OS is like 6 hours old, and you already got it installed.
Well, let me see if it's on.
I will install it on my black MacBook right now. Please hold.
Hold on, it's on fire.
When did you try sending those? Because
I tried downloading it and it burst into flames.
It was.
I saw the Apple Vision thingy. That was pretty cool.
I see the one with you behind the MacBook. Is that one of them?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that one. There was one with Mackie and my TV.
Ooh, is Mackie gonna have a sticker pack?
Anybody can have
That
a
would be
sticker.
cool.
So I have a question for the group.
There was sorry, just very quickly, there was one feature that I thought was quite nifty is the airdrop. The fact that if you start an airdrop and then you move away outside of range, it'll flick it over and start then sending it via the internet rather than through the Bluetooth.
Hopefully you can disable that if you have something that'll cap your bandwidth.
Yeah, right.
But I thought that was quite a nifty thing, because I've had times, because I airdrop stuff to like my computer here all the friggin' time, because when I'm doing videos I might shoot a little bit of footage or something like that, and I like the idea of being able to start it and then just walk away, and not have to be standing here in Bluetooth range while the thing.
What was Steve gonna say?
Well, my question to you guys is, in 2007, Apple delayed Leopard because they're working on the iPhone. And obviously, Apple was a much smaller company back then, and they have a bunch of more people there, I'm sure now. But now do we feel like with all the hardware lines they have, and with this new VR headset hardware line and that new OS to it, do we feel like they're stretching themselves a little thin in some areas? Because I could definitely have seen within the past year or so, especially Ventura is one thing that's painful in a lot of people's minds. Is like things are sort of getting out there in a more unfinished state with less polish than they used to. And I don't know if it's just because there's more people using these products, so more people are discovering these bugs, or I just feel like it's something that is slightly concerning. They're like, hey, where's this brand new hardware thing we're diving into? And that's a whole other thing that our support team and our marketing team and our sales team and our developer team are going to be sunk their teeth into. And I don't know.
No, I'm with you. I used to read about bugs, and now I'm the one finding them. You know, that says a lot about my limited use of a computer. I just do basic stuff. I don't use it for work or complicated stuff, and I find a lot of bugs. And back in the day, I used the computer a lot more. Day and night I was behind that thing, from macOS 8.6 all the way up. And I would hear about bugs, I would read about bugs, and in the magazines, like, oh, if you run into this bug, this is how you fix it. Like, well, I don't have that issue, and now I have that issue all the time. So definitely, I think they're stretching themselves too thin, and have been for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cutoff of the Intel stuff will help with that, but this OS still supports Intel stuff, so I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of bugs, I'm happy to report that the new iOS 17 is fairly stable.
You've only had it for 2 hours. You can't say that.
Usually, the first beta, it's like it'll crash and reboot after just looking at it or just trying to play along.
Yes, it will. Yes.
Well, it's the
Just
same.
trying
It's
to
the
load up
same.
text messages.
It's the same with Sonoma too. I think it's actually pretty good. The beta. It's not. You're not seeing like extraneous stuff all over the screen, or stuff is actually
Everything's
working.
worked so far. Like I have had nothing that's broken. So
You just jinxed it.
I know. So still upgrade at your own risk, but I found it was okay.
Can't be worse than Ventura.
No. Well, Catalina was worse.
Bruce,
Yeah,
what's
Catalina
worse?
was
Yeah.
bad.
Catalina
What's
was the lion of modern OSs.
Yes, it was.
I want to hear Bruce's opinion. Ventura or macOS 8.0?
Oh God, I don't even remember using 8.0 to be honest. I've never really been a super early adopter of operating systems, and there's been a very good reason for that, because most of the time when I was using those, I was using them in a production environment. So the last thing you do is you destabilize your system by sticking something new on there. You ease into it. So I probably didn't start using 8 until it was well into the dot somethings. So I would.
I just remember there being so many issues with the. I mean, it was fancy and flashy, so that's why I shoved it on every machine, and it was just like weird things would just not work. It was 8 versus 7, so it's a big.
It got up to like 8.6 or something, didn't it? That was the top one.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But 8.1 came out. I think it was just about a year after 8, so they were like, "Oh, we got to fix this."
I remember installing 8.1 on stuff. I can't remember what stuff because it's a long time ago, and I'm older. My brain doesn't work very well anymore. But I do remember installing 8.1, and I probably did install 8.0 on something, but I certainly wouldn't have put it on production machines. I would
6 months is from 8 to 8.1, so yeah, they rushed that out.
Yeah. Okay, so I think given the fact that we've been going close to 2 hours, I think we probably should wrap things up now. What do you guys think? I think we've
probably should. I mean,
because someone here has to write a presentation that they have in just under 3 hours' time, and they've only written about 4 words so far.
Well, I was going to show this real quick before we go of the compatibility for Sonoma is all the Macs that's actually losing the compatibility. So
OpenCore will bring them back.
Oh, it probably will.
Maybe.
Yeah. But
Maybe.
now the one question I do have to ask, and we haven't talked about it, because we can't end without this. When is the last Intel version of Mac OS going to be, you think?
This one.
I think this is it, yeah.
Either this one or the next one. Also, if you notice, the Macs that are supported that are Intel based are all T2.
Yes, all T2. Yeah, you're right.
I was hoping that the Mac Pro was not going to be updated yet, because that would mean another year of Intel support for Mac OS. But now that the ARM Mac Pro is here, I think they'll kill it up as quickly as possible.
Do you think
Maybe.
this will see a drop in the secondhand pricing of the Intel Mac Pro, the 2019 Intel Mac Pro?
Oh yes, I think
Yeah.
it will.
Nah.
I've already
mean,
seen those. For
Depends
like
on the
$5,000.
spec.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
people that still try to get $3,000 for their trash cans. People are just delusional, like, oh, I spent all this money, therefore it's still worth that.
Apple's
I
still
wanna get a
trying to
trash can
do
for
stuff
$2.
like that in the UK. They're still trying to sell the trash can.
Well, they've
As
been
refurb.
screwing over the European market for decades. It's nothing new.
So,
Yeah.
anyone here thinking of if it comes into their price range of buying one of the 2019 Mac Pros?
Not anymore. No.
If it got really cheap, maybe.
When they're
Yeah.
50
Just to have it
bucks.
as a Windows computer, because that's the only thing it'd be good
It's
for
a very
after a
beautiful
few years.
machine. If I
Yeah,
can
they're
Yeah,
very
it's
get it,
very beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I think maybe in like 10 years, if I can pick it up for like $500, that would be awesome.
I will
Same.
say this: if it has the wheels on it, it's a great footrest.
Yeah.
Sean, I got a couple of G5s I can sell you for cheap.
But I've got an eMac right here I'm using as a footrest.
The
right
shipping
now.
will kill you.
Sean, next time you come over, I have multiple G5s with your name on it.
Yeah, I was of the mind that if they were going to mess up the Mac Pro, I would hold out for 2019, and then. But I'm becoming, I don't know if that's because of my age now, but I'm becoming a lot more conscious about energy consumption. So a Mac Studio for the basic stuff I do, probably even a Mac Mini, is going to be all I need. So yeah. No more Mac Pro for me.
So Mr.
What is
H in the chat says 2 more Intel support because 2019. I think no. I think this is the last version because you got to remember it's that's almost be 5 years. Well, 4 years for the 2019. So they've had more than enough time. That's even way more than they did for the
Yeah,
G5.
Yeah,
Even if
they
the-
dropped the G5 like
yeah, the
nothing.
G5, yeah.
And even if the OS isn't supported, since they have the rapid update and all this stuff for the security things, you'll still have security patches for a year or so after the next OS comes out.
Yeah. Oh
So-
yeah. Well, for at least 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, at least two.
So Jay, I currently
Yeah.
have about 30 apps open, and I am consuming around about 21 watts of power with this Mini at the moment. So
Yeah, I mean, I am running Chrome with StreamYard, and I'm probably pulling down 600 watts. I don't know.
How do you tell the wattage, Bruce? I want to see.
it says that I do iStat menus.
Grab your power cable. If it's
Hold on.
cool, you're not drawing much. If it's warm, you're drawing. Yeah. And
Your fans
if you
are
say
starting to ramp
ow,
up.
then you're using a Mac Pro.
Yeah, I'm pulling 27.8 watts right now
on a
Watts?
Stuff.
Oh,
on my
your
M1
M1.
yeah. M1 Max. Yeah.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
I mean and I know myself. I love the Mac Pro, but once I switch to something else, this thing is going to collect dust. I have no need to run one supercomputer, let alone get a new
Mine-
computer and then
mine
run
already
this one on
have.
top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
mine's still going because I'm lazy because I haven't
Which-
bothered to
which-
transfer stuff.
There's a
across.
reason why I stopped the Mac Pro series. It's because I got sick of it, and I got better Macs that actually did things better.
Yeah, but now you're back, right?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm not
Okay,
doing the
dude.
Mac Pro series.
What menu is that under an iStat?
It is under the one that says
Sensors.
Sensors.
Now I'm pulling 24 watts.
Oh,
Right down the bottom.
Bear with me. I need to thank you for using iStat menus. Your trial has ended. Well, screw you then. I don't know how many watts I'm using. It's a lot.
which one am I looking for? There's a bunch of them.
It's at the bottom, right at the bottom, very bottom. Total power. Bottom.
Total power.
Sensors.
I don't see that.
From the menus. Up in the menu. iStat menu. Up in the
Share your
menus.
screen. We'll yell at you.
This
Menus
segment is
called-
sponsored by iStat Menu.
You know, it still bothers me they haven't updated the iStat menus for the new MacBook Pro screens with the cutout in them.
Oh yeah.
It still
maybe that-
drives me insane.
Yeah. All I can recommend is don't buy Mac with a cutout.
There we go. I'm currently drawing 188 watts.
There you go.
Oh no, I'm wrong.
That's
No, the graph didn't update yet. I'm at 377 watts right now.
okay. That's pretty.
Wait, wait.
Yeah.
I want to verse this Jay's Mac Pro versus like an ultrasonic cleaner. Let's see which is more.
All right. Okay. Well, we've totally degenerated now. This is it's definitely time to end the show. Kate, thank you very much for being on the show with us today. We have enjoyed your input immensely, and it's also good, as I say, it was wonderful to have someone who is still happy with Apple.
Oh God! And says the guys that host an Apple podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Old fart yak. Yeah.
I'm
become
happier
so
with them now than I was, a couple of years ago.
We
I
were
think-
very happy, and Apple never started sponsoring us with brand new hardware and all that, so we got grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Next time I'll
And
be
we never
I'll
got
have
those-
the headset and I'll be in that Uncanny Valley 3D and I'll see how it works.
Kate will be like with her back turned to us for the first 30 minutes and she won't even know it.
Oh dear. So, does anyone have anything they want to add? Anything interesting coming up?
I'll be at the VCF swap meet
Maybe
this Saturday.
something
Oh,
like
yay.
this right here.
Smash that like button.
I would ask everyone to please go out and watch my latest YouTube video, just because.
I saw that. I liked it.
Especially if you're interested in 3D printers. So please watch
I need
it.
to check it out.
I assume, Kate, you being a subscriber of the channel, you would have got the notification straight away.
I did get the notification, but I
But-
because I have my own videos coming out that I'm working on.
we will.
I'm
have
building
to be,
doing some awesome stuff with these color cases that I have.
Cool.
excellent. So
Got
they are the
all the colors.
What's the company called? I can't remember. MacEffects.
MacEffects.
Yeah, yeah.
MacEffects.com.
Excellent. Wonderful stuff. All right, so everyone look out for those new videos that Kate's got coming out. I'm sure everyone who's watching is already a subscriber. If you're not, shame on you. Okay, so that's it. That was our idea of the Worldwide Developer Conference. I think at the end of the day, there was good and bad, and some stuff that we just have to kind of wait and see what's going to happen. So, so we have a Discord.
Nice screensaver effect there.
What? What's that?
I was just dragging my name around bouncing. Sorry, I derailed.
We are an
and
easily distracted group.
We are a very easily distracted group.
Oh, yeah. Squirrel.
And look, we will. This is obviously not our normal time. I think we'll be back to normal programming in a fortnight's time. So
Fortnight plus 2
we'll hope
days.
yes,
Plus 2
that's
days,
right.
yeah.
So hope to see you all at the next show. Thank you everyone for your input. And we will see you with the next one. Is someone ready to go with the wind up
Yes,
music?
I am.
Yep, okay, excellent. All
Bye,
right, so
everybody.
thank you, everyone. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.